Okay, you should have a sign up there saying it's recording. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect.
Right. Welcome everyone to eFactor and the Business Hive's latest podcast. Today we're meeting with Jason Stockwood. I'm really delighted, Jason. Welcome to Hive Talking. It's really good to have you here.
Well, firstly, thank you. Thanks, Mark. I wonder if people will be adjusting their screens, thinking it's just the same people. I'm glad you took your beard off. Otherwise, people will be worried about that we might be related, I think.
Well, you know, when it comes to that, I think in towns like ours, many people are related somewhere along the line. You just don't go too far back.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Jason, I mean, we've been trying to get to this discussion for a long time now. You've been a busy man trying to get some time in your diary. So I really am grateful for you finding that time to do that. I wanted to kick off with a question. I suppose we don't talk much about this, but you're a Grimsby boy, and there's some story behind how you went from there to now being the mayoral candidate for Greater Lincolnshire and one of the UK's leading entrepreneurs. It's a bit of a story there. Do you want to give us an idea of what that journey was?
Yeah, you're gonna have to cut me off on this, Mark. I could talk for an hour just on this story because it's a lot of twists and turns. I mean, there's no. I'm more suspicious of people, by the way, who sort of talk about this sort of direct lineage of a decision they made as kids to where they are today. You know, life's not like that. Life's chaotic and opportunistic, and that's what makes it interesting and fun. But there are some sort of threads that go through it. So I was talking to a couple of young entrepreneurs last week that Sophie put me in touch with, Archie and Owen. I was telling to them, it's like you don't end up going from that point to this point. You just go through a series of gates, don't you? And every opportunity, as an entrepreneur, you go, rather than just looking backwards all the time, you tend up looking forwards and going, what's next? That's really what it's been, a series of gates for me. But yeah, look, I'm Grimsby through and through. I love the place. I'm from the place. You know, I have lived away for quite a long time, but I'm connected to it. And in the last 4 years, it's all I've done again. So I've been with the football club and the onside charity Horizon in Grimsby and Our Future. Everyone into town knows it's like I'm there all week, every week for the last 3 years. But like, I've had a load of things about Grimsby that's helped me on my way. So I'm a grafter, and I think that's a characteristic of people from the town. I've never been scared of hard work. You know, I was in Cleethorpes yesterday, and I was telling someone the story about working at the Winter Gardens from 14. You know, and I loved it. I loved work. I liked being around people. I liked the culture of work and what it does to you. And I certainly liked having a few quid in my pocket. So one of the things I would say to people, I've got the Grimsby characteristic of hard work. I'm not scared of that. I'm a grafter. I can get in earlier than everyone else. I can work late. I've always had that. I put my business partner at Simply Business. We used to sort of have this sort of joke because he was similar. He was from Salford. Actually, he said he was from Salford. He was from the posh part of Salford. We used to rib him about that because we used to have this game playing our working class credentials off against each other. But yeah, so that's one thing. So the second thing is, like, I'm curious. So, you know, I've just followed my curiosity through my life into interesting things, and, you know, never been motivated that much by money. It's weird because, again, these young entrepreneurs kept asking me that question, and it's bizarre. It's like money's an output of what I've done. I've always been commercial. I like negotiating. I enjoy a deal, but like it's never been the you know, the acquisition of financial stuff has been a high motivation for me.
I think that's interesting, Jason. Just stop you. I think that's because you know, we deal with a lot of startups and established local businesses, small businesses, and you know, it is interesting. It's almost, you're talking about gateways. It's almost as if you need to get beyond the gateway of worrying about how you're going to pay the next bill in order to widen out your views and gather your thoughts about what it actually takes to have a sustainable business. I guess that's one of the gateways that everyone has to go through.
It's a really important point, Mark. Yeah, so it's like there's you know, sort of Maslow's hierarchy. You need your basic needs fulfilled and not worrying about money. But I did worry about money as a kid. We were skint. My mum took care of us. You know, we never went without stuff, but we didn't have a lot of stuff. But I remember being cold quite a lot as a kid, but we were never hungry. And so my mum did an amazing job bringing up 4 boys on her own for that in itself. But there's a threshold, and I remember, I remember it. It was 30 grand for me. It was I was in my early 30s, and I remember being at lastminute.com, and I negotiated this deal for myself, and it was really important because I wanted to earn 30 grand before I was 30, I think it was. But it was the day, and I remember it vividly because it was at the end of the month. I had all my student debts and stuff, but I had money left in my bank account for the first time. I was like, I've been 29, 30, I think it was. And that was a real moment for me because I used to live in my overdrafts and never had much money. We never really worried about it. And so there came a point, and so I was saying to these young lads, I was like, yeah, it's the financial side of stuff is it's in of itself, money is, isn't that motivating, but it'd be disingenuous. I'd be lying to say what it does do is give you choices, and really what it is, it's an accelerant to your true self, what you want to become and what you want to do, and give you the choices. So, so back to your original question. Like, I'm a grafter. I'm really curious, and then I got really lucky. And again, this is slightly weird for people to hear, but like once you recognise the role that luck plays in your life, and I'm not saying this in a frivolous way. I went back to university and I wrote and I thought quite a lot about this. It's like, so me being around in London in the 1990s, all the things I brought to that was like I was curious about the internet. I was curious about this new technology, and I went and found an opportunity, and that was lastminute.com. But half of that was I was in the right place at the right time, and someone took a chance on me. So I had no control over that. And the reason I mention that quite a lot is you can, as an entrepreneur, you can increase. I heard someone call it, say something once that I like, that you can increase the surface area of your luck by having positive characteristics like hard work, optimism, curiosity, educating yourself. But there's still luck in there, and the reason why that's important to me is it's motivated me to do the stuff I'm doing today. To come back to that, because I think I use it as a recipient of that, of the characteristics that I brought to the table, and as a recipient of that luck, I feel a moral obligation, not in a grandiose way, but it really motivates me to do something with that. And so it gives me somewhat purpose, saying, look, I've had this good fortune, I've got a network, I've got wealth, I've got influence, I've got this broader sense of capability. Well, it'd be pointless just to point that and making more money to me. So it motivates me strongly to, in service of all the things that helped me get here. And then there's another really simple answer to the question. Like, I just love the place. It's the people that I know. It's my brothers. It's my mates. It's the people I've, grown up with. And so, as we get older in life, you realise that's the real substance of meaning, isn't it? It's your connections, and it's the people that know you, and the people that don't judge you for what you're doing today. They judge you as the spirit that you bring and the kindness that you bring, and so that's the real stuff of life. So, and you don't get that anywhere else than the place where people have known you the longest. Did that answer your question? Sorry, I was rambling a bit there.
No. Look, it does. It kind of takes us in a roundabout way to there, but far better than a list of CV achievements to hear it from the heart, because ultimately that's what it is. And I buy into that idea about luck, but I also buy into the idea the harder you work, the luckier you get, and that kind of lies with what you're saying. If you put in the graft, you open your mind to opportunities, you're more likely to see them than you are to shut down. I suppose
I think that's the better way of putting it in some ways, Mark, because it's about, we all see the same things on face value, but how you receive them as an entrepreneur. Like, and again, this is good fortune as well. Like, I'm a natural optimist. Like, I see opportunities, I don't see problems. I see things that you can inject yourself into to make better and improve, and so. But that's a dint of your birthright. Like, my wife's a pessimist, and it's probably good as a relationship we've got both, because I see opportunities and I take risks, and whereas you need balance in your life, but that's good fortune as well. But like, exactly. If there's two people in a room and someone walks in, we'll see them differently. We're seeing the same physical thing, the basic data and facts, but the way we receive that's what entrepreneurs do, and they see opportunities and are prepared to have a go as well. I think that's a Grimsby thing as well. I'll tell you another thing, Mark, by the way. Someone said to me, I was on this campaign, I met someone who's one of the educators for the region. And he's not from Lincolnshire, but he's been around all the different colleges. And it was really lovely. He said to me, Grimsby's different. And I was like, go on. I feel it because I'm from there. When it's really entrepreneurial in a way that other places aren't. Like, people are looking for a deal, for an angle. They're very personable. And it was really lovely, because I've thought that for a while. But like, it was really interesting to hear someone who knew the place well enough and had context of other places around it to say that to me. So maybe there's something very specific about Grimsby as well,
Well,
and North East links.
I think that's right, you know, because especially nowadays, the difference in other places that I've lived, there are lots of people who are grafters and looking for a deal and, you know, ducking and diving and all that, but they're looking out for it in a particular way. I found in Grimsby, there's and this is going to be important in the years ahead, there's far more of a sense of community and loyalty to the people that are around you and you know, not shafting each other, basically. There's a lot more of that sense of pride here, which I'm really chuffed to be part of. Look, I mean, we could talk about entrepreneurism until the cows come home. It's my favourite subject, but it's somehow linked to that. I want to just start diving into your campaign or your aspiration to be the first mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. That's a big deal, you know. And I've read a lot of the stuff that you put out and listened to a lot of what you've been saying, and linked to what we've just been talking about. Jobs is always the thing that comes up, isn't it? I mean, it has an impact on people's hope and their aspirations and the culture of the area. What hope there is for the future often comes down to jobs. And you know, in the past, I've been involved in listening to politics for a long time now, and jobs is always what people are offering, thousands of jobs if you elect me and all those kind of things. So what's your take on that from a mayoral point of view? Jobs in Greater Lincolnshire, what's your take on?
So there's a couple of things in there, really, Mark. So one, you know, part of the reason I'm standing is I'm fed up with traditional politics. I think we do need more people with different experience. It was interesting. Pretty much the only thing I agree with Nigel Farage on is, you know, in his form, he said that we need more businessmen leading in politics. And I'm like, spot on. Because I just think you have a different way of looking at the world. You understand the mechanics of it as well, how to raise money, how to put strategies together, how to build teams. And so I think when I look at this opportunity, I think, you know, without being false modest, I think I've got some of the characteristics that can do the job, so it doesn't faze me. And I know there'll be a bunch of stuff to learn, but I think I've, you know, proven in my career, this is the next gate for me. You know, having run organisations at scale and raised hundreds of millions of pounds, I can do this. So that's one thing. The second thing is, yeah, look, I mean, we're in a real moment in time, I believe, and I think it's the next 5 to 10 years. We're in it already. We've probably been in it for 10 years, which is the devolved powers to look at how we build skills and economic development for our region. There's a moment in time where, you know, whether you look at the Humber Bank and the Humber Estuary and all of the amazing opportunities are there. You know, there's 15 billion quid of private money that's ready to invest. Like, I've spoken to a lot of those people now, different businesses. Could create anywhere that I've had it low end quoted as 20,000 jobs, could be high end 30,000, but like a lot of jobs, right? And then you look at the agricultural sector, whether it's increasing productivity through technology or food processing through technology or food production in the south and the mid part of the county. There is genuinely a once in 100-year opportunity, if we get the right leader, to put Lincolnshire on the map, both in terms of renewable energy and a green transition, and, you know, being at the heart of our food security in this nation, the food we produce and process as well. And just there isn't a coherent plan for that. So there are a lot of people working really hard on all of those things. But I think when I looked at this, I was like, this is the job of a mayor can do. And it's both understanding how we create a unified vision, but importantly, a plan to get that delivered. And then secondly, you know, and I'm shameless about this, we need a salesman for the region. And the mayor's job is to be the person that talks the region up, raises money, raises investment. And, you know, he's shouting about what a brilliant place Lincolnshire is. So that was it for me, Mike. Like I genuinely think, and the reason why it's now is that, you know, the agriculture stuff, you know, we post Brexit, we've got the first time in 50 years we can define our agricultural policy and define what UK food production can be. And we haven't taken advantage of that since Brexit in 2016. So that's the opportunity, and a mayor needs to do that. And then secondly, on the green tech and renewable energy, I mean, this is a bigger concern for me, actually, which is that money will go elsewhere if we don't have a mayor that believes in this stuff and understands how to unlock that investment. And so, again, for me, you know, I've been talking to all these industries and talking to these suppliers and saying, look, I can do this, I can champion this for you. And I also have a seat at the table with the Labour government to be able to unlock where the government needs to unlock that. So it's a real opportunity, but it's now, and it's a small window, because all those investors, if we don't get this right, have choices, and capital, ultimately, is fungible and will go to other places. So I'm really excited about it in a way that I'm nervous if we don't capitalize on that for the region.
Yeah.
I'm not in a doomsday scenario, but the upside is massive if we get this right, because it's all about skills that we can put around the back of that. And there's brilliant people doing that work. It's about the other industries around that. So the industries of, restaurants and bars and pubs and clothes shops, all of that will grow as a result of getting this core strategy right. And that's a moment that's here right now.
I mean, and that's really, it's so important to have, I suppose, from young people, but everyone in our community. It feels that we've got so much potential in Greater Lincolnshire. You can feel it in so many places. It's frustrating, though, I think, for somebody living in East Marsh or in Scartho or in South Holland, or to recognise, well, how will I link? Where's my future and my kids' future linked to that? Because people talk about it in high offices, but I'm not seeing it in my bills and on my table and that kind of thing.
Well, this is another part, right? This is where it does get slightly ideological, right? So I look at the way I was brought up. Yeah, I have socialist leanings. I've got Labour values. It's the way I was. I was a council estate kid, free school meals, free university, the whole kit and caboodle. So that's embedded. That's in my bones. So a sense of that gave me, to answer your earlier question, that was in many ways the catalyst for giving me a platform to have some success, because I felt I had a safe, secure council home. I had a loving family environment, even though we were skint, and felt like university was an option, right? And that's diminished, right? In our lifetimes, that's diminished. It's a failure of our generation, actually. I think that's got harder for kids. So all of this wealth creation, all this job creation only makes sense if the wealth that's created benefits absolutely everybody. So for me, it's not good enough. If you're a Tory or Reform, then their idea of a free market social capitalism is that the wealth is created and you have this trickle down to everywhere else. And it just is a lie. That stuff is a lie. We've proven that in the last 50 years, right? Wealth inequality is its worst levels in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
But that's the ideology that they're leading with, which is we give private enterprise the opportunity to go, apart from when they obviously want nationalising still, which is a complete shows the flexibility of their thinking, right? But that version of capitalism doesn't work, and I've seen it from the inside. It creates wealth at an aggregate level, but it doesn't benefit the whole of society. So for me, having someone who has Labour principles, which is we need to create that wealth and the jobs and the growth, but in service of the social justice stuff that we care about, making sure that money pays for schools and NHS and infrastructure, and importantly, for social mobility. Because the idea that the harder you work, you can get on is another lie, right? The idea of a meritocracy is a lie. The biggest determinant of your success is your postcode you're born in and the number of books your parents have on the shelves.
Yeah.
And we've got to break that. And we can break it. We broke it after the Second World War, and we can break it again. But the Tory and Reform ideology of capitalism is about wealth creation and hoping that the rest of it sort of takes care of itself. That just isn't good enough. So in my plan, we want to do this and create these jobs and wealth, but connect them to all those kids, those scruffy kids like me that were in Scatha growing up, or those kids today in the other places that are less privileged. And I think that's at the heart of it for me. The wealth creation itself is but it's in service of creating a fairer society where everyone thinks they've got the chance to go from A to B, rather than just those kids that are born in the right parts of town.
Yeah, I mean that's quite counterintuitive listening to you, because here you are a very successful entrepreneur across the country, but yet you're talking about how capitalism in its current state doesn't really work. So that's quite an unusual approach for someone like yourself, huh?
Well, it works. So I've spent 50 odd years thinking about. That's a lie. I didn't start at 4. That would be weird, wouldn't it? I've spent probably 30 years thinking deeply about this, which is, my instincts initially were that socialism was the answer, and as I guess with all youthful indulgences, it just isn't, right? It's like, because it denudes in some way personal endeavour and the opportunity for people to actually motivate themselves by their own interests and stuff. So that's one thing. So, but then I became a capitalist and I was an entrepreneur, and I loved it. I love the idea that if I want to get up early and everyone wants to work a bit harder than everyone else, I should get the benefit of that. And that's totally fine. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just the way I'm wired. So I was happy to get into the office at 6:30 and work till 10 at night. It was just, but my mates weren't, and that's fine. But I was right. But I should benefit from that. But equally, what we have is a system, and this is why I went back to university in my late 40s again. Hang on, no, early 50s. It's like, because I really wanted to check my thinking on this, and where I got to was capitalism, and an aggregate level is the best way to create wealth in the world. And we've raised nearly 2 billion, 1.5 billion, 2 billion people out of poverty, mainly in the East, right? So it's been a success now, but it needs an upgrade. It needs another version, which is progressive capitalism. To me, is a version which is, people can get on by their ability, and capital should go to where it can make its greatest returns, but it needs to be tethered by a social contract to make sure everyone benefits from it. Whereas, free market capitalism has ended up being that the wealthy have just got wealthier. And COVID was a good example of this, right? We had a transfer of wealth of nearly 700 billion from the state to the richest people via mortgage payments and, keeping the lights on. So it was the right thing to do. So I think there's a different conversation about capitalism, which is in service of what? In service of a fairer, more equal society, not total equality, because again, people have different talents and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a lifetime of thinking about this. Capitalism is the best route for us because each people's ability can be translated into what they want to do. But it's got to be tethered with a social contract that means that everyone benefits and it rises all boats. And we've lost touch with that. And it was a lie. Trickle down economics was a lie, and that's been proven.
We've seen and continue to see evidence that trickle down doesn't work. I think I'm on record as saying that's such a frustrating belief, but that's really engaging. And I don't think I've ever heard it described in that way before. Talking about the bringing together both opportunity for everyone and a meritocracy where people can be rewarded for the hard work and the talent they bring. Okay, so I suppose one of the things that you're using your talents for to start creating that kind of environment is something I've seen on your manifesto called the Lincolnshire First Fund. I'm really interested in that because it seemed I couldn't quite figure out whether it was a slogan, because it's a nice little thing, or is there some real action behind that that's going to make a difference again to the people we're talking about?
Yeah, so I'm trying not to call it a manifesto because that sounds too political to me. So it's a plan. It's just dead simple. It's a plan, right? It's like what the other candidates haven't done is like I've tried to make sure that whatever happens next week or May the 1st, that people know I'm serious about this and I've been thinking about it for many years, and there's a plan as well. So I'm going to get to work if I'm elected on May the 2nd and get going on this. I'm not going to be waiting around. And you know what? Even if I don't get elected, I'm going to be going to work on this stuff because I'm committed to the place, right? Nice. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is like the real differentiator I think I have over other candidates is like I've done this, like I've built plans, I've raised hundreds of millions, I've created thousands of jobs in the business I've been creating. So I wanted to demonstrate this to people that while the other candidates are sort of, flicking around talking about potholes and DEI officers, and I'm not saying that's not important, but I think the mayor's role is different. The mayor has got to set the tone and vision for a region that raises all aspiration. And I think, for me, I want to raise £1 billion. I want to do it in a way that can invest in all these opportunities and make sure we capitalise on all of those things like jobs, like infrastructure, like protecting the NHS, and so for me, the easiest way to do that is to try and find new money because we've got loads of people who are ready to do the work. We need just to resource them and build capabilities around them so they can get going, right? So for me, this is a symbol of how I can individually catalyse £1 billion, and it'll be more than that, I think, generally. But I just wanted to put a number in people's heads that will transform 1 million people's lives. We've got 1 million people plus in the county. Yeah. And so it's not just, so back to our earlier point, Mark, it's not just about raising money to make money. This is about catalysing a fund, which I know how to do, that we put to work, doing the things we want to do in our plan, that ultimately will help our community. 1 million people in Lincolnshire have better lives. That's the point of it. And so, it'll be accessing government money, it'll be accessing private funds, pension funds, private equity funds. And then interestingly, I think it's a way and this is, I think, the innovation in it, but this might be a little bit technical, might lose people, but I think this is a way of getting wealthy individuals to invest in places rather than taxing them. Because if you have a very specific plan for a very specific place, I think there are a number of individuals who go, oh, I get that. That's the language of investing rather than taxation. Let's go to work on that. And so there's, again, this is some of the work I've been thinking about for the last 5 or 6 years in particular, but a way of trying to get the wealthiest to pay for this as well, or use it as a way of investing rather than just thinking that the government will pay for it, because I don't think that's a good model as well. So yeah, it's real. It's something I've been thinking about for years, but I wanted to catalyze that into a document and a plan so people know that, if I get elected, I'm going to go to work straight away on getting this stuff done, rather than start the thinking on what we need to deliver. So people know what they're voting for, because it's all in those sort of 12 pages.
Yeah, and that's really exciting, I suppose, because you're. And I note the difference between a manifesto and a plan. I suppose manifestos have got some explaining to do over the years. We all understand what a plan is, because it's got a start and a finish and an outcome that we're all going to measure and hope it happens, that people can get behind, I suppose. And that's really quite important. Part of our future is, I suppose, undeniable, and you mentioned it in what you've been saying. Is the whole area of renewables and the spin out that and the new vision for Greater Lincolnshire that involves renewables. But I've noted it's not without its controversy. There are people from one end of the scheme where people are completely against it, to the other end where people want it but don't want it in their backyard, and there's the sacrifices that have to be made. What's your take on this? I mean, what we need is some honest, this is what it's all about, and we just got to get on with it.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, I've tried to stay away from the ideology of this, Mark, really. The net zero stuff, I believe in it. Climate change is real, and I think it's nonsense to deny that. So I think that's the first thing I'd state. However, in all the conversations I've been having over the last 4 months in particular, I'm saying, look, this is not about ideology. This is about good jobs for today and tomorrow. All that stuff we just talked about, those 20 to 30,000 jobs are real. And so that's the first thing, right? It's like, while global investors are not debating climate change, global investors are investing in the new technologies that develop renewable and sustainable energy. So so forget about the net zero stuff for a while. However, having someone as your mayor that is ideological will put investors off. I tell you that for a fact. As an investor, it will put investors off, and that money will go elsewhere. So it's really simple for me, which is, while people are debating net zero, some of them have got net zero ideas on how to develop our economy if that's not the case. And so for me, it's about, how do we promote the region? We've got, on the Humber Bank in particular, we've got some of the greatest opportunities globally, not just in the UK, to be at the vanguard of creating renewable energy. And that's important, non-ideological, because we want energy security. The reason why our household bills are so high, the reason that our industrial energy prices are so high, is nothing to do with, well, it's a very little bit to do with net zero. It's mostly to do with global wholesale energy prices and what's going on in Russia at the moment, in the Ukraine. And so again, we get wrapped up in this ideological thing, when actually the reality of it is, we need to control our energy sources and protect our pricing by being completely sustainable, and renewable energy is the best way to do that. Right, so that's the main thing. And then you come back to, we've got choices, and I think what politicians have done, not a great job at, and as public, we're culpable in this, right? Because we want simple answers. Are you for solar farms or against? Are you for pounds? And actually, we've got to say, let's just pause for a moment. Let's have a debate on this. And the debate is, do you want cheaper prices? Yes. Okay. Well, there's going to be some compromises there. Do you want your energy bills to be beholden on geopolitics and what's happening in war in Ukraine? Of course we don't. Okay. Well, we're going to have some choices there as well. And then, so that's the first debate. If we're going to have energy security, then solar will be part of that. Well, then we're starting to get into the debate about solar on farms. And this one really gets my goat, actually, because people are going, we don't want solar on farmlands. Well, I'm like, firstly, if we were to do the maximum amount of solar that's projected on farmlands, it would be 1% of our farmland, right? So that's the first thing that people are getting their knickers in a twist about. Secondly, you know, if you don't want solar as part of our mix, then that'll keep our prices higher. That's, you know, we need a mix of energy, including gas and oil, by the way, and solar needs to be a part of that. So again, if we don't want that on farmland at all, thirdly, not all of our farmland is grade A farmland, right? So there must be some choices that we've got made. And then fourthly, really importantly for me, it's the farmer's choice. You know, it's not for the public to decide. If the farmers own the farmland, let them choose as part of their economic mix. So again, it's not as simple as do you want it or not. Of course, in an ideal world, we want our countryside pristine, but no one's got the time for the 3 minutes I've just waffled at you to have that debate about solar. So it's a really good example of where, you know, if you said solar is yes or no, then you can't answer those questions sufficiently without understanding the issues. So part of my plan, by the way, is to have something that we call a citizens' assembly, which is you get 100 or so people, a cross section of society, to debate these issues with all the facts. And so it's not politicians, it's not people who get their money by doing this and say, look, these are the facts, and let's make a choice. If we don't want them, that's fine, but there are consequences of this. And that's the bit for me. So sorry, again, I'm rambling a little bit, but these are complex issues, right? Whereas you get asked solar farms, yes or no. I'm like, well, it's just not an easy answer. You can't answer it yes or no. So and give it the right sort of justice.
Oh, for sure. And I think headline politics and headline grabbing little jingoistic things, they don't serve anyone. So that's really interesting. And I suppose it spins on to my because, as you know, I'm all about, and eFactor in the business side is all about local businesses. And one of the things, it relates to the trickle down we were talking about before. One of the things that is often frustrating to the smaller employers here is, look, this is great, and we've got all of this, and everyone says, oh yeah, it'll be wonderful because you'll get some benefit from it over there if that all happens. But then there's never a plan for that benefit. There doesn't seem to be so every local business is sitting there saying, that's a lovely big operation you've got going on over there, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing any benefit. Well, I'm connecting that.
Well, I think one of the measures, and again, this is something about, you know, maybe this needs to go in the plan as well, right? Which is one of the measures is everyone needs of having a mayor. It can't cost people more money. That's pretty obvious. But the second measure should really, after a period of 4 years, does your life feel better for the person you voted for? Because this person is local and accountable to you. So this is a real, but it's got enough scale that it can create an impact. And I would suggest that whoever gets elected, one of the measures should be a poll like, does everyone's life feel better as a result? Because if it doesn't, then you shouldn't vote for them. They shouldn't stand, actually, quite frankly. So I'd be happy to commit to that, because I think unless this role makes people feels like it's affected their lives, then what's the point, right? I don't want to be doing that just for the sake of it. And it's got to connect to everyone. And that's why, you know, part of the issue that the fund, the Lincolnshire First Fund, part of it is that the profits from it will go back into the communities. That won't happen in 4 years because it'd be too quick on the electoral cycle, on the cycle of how funds work. But over the long term, these funds the profits should come back into the community as well. And that'll help us think about the things we want to fund. And the Citizens Assembly can decide, is that the NHS? Is it the arts? Is it schools? You know, what is it? Is it green spaces? You know, what is it about this money that makes life better day to day for people? And that's the version of capitalism, rather than the government, again, or philanthropy. So there's a model here, which is if it goes for, you know, 50 to 100 years, which I hope it would, the profits from it just be recycled into projects that the community want for themselves to make life genuinely feel better, right? And that's so this is against
that's the litmus test at the end, isn't it? And you're quite right. How do people feel when they wake up in the morning about the prospect for their day, their week, their month, and for them and their family in the year ahead? I suppose that's the and I think in there as well, Mark, this is one of the reasons I've come into politics. And on the hustings that we've done, I've lost my rag a couple of times, and one of them is like everyone's talking down the country and the region. Everything's broken or nothing works, and I'm like, yeah, look, there's loads of work to do to improve it. But if we look at our assets as failing assets, as problems, we'll never get to the point of making it positive for our community. And that's the entrepreneur's mindset. And I'm sick of people saying Britain's broken. I'm sick of people saying, no, things don't work. Okay, let's solve those things. Let's improve them. But let's get on the front foot, because you can talk yourself down. Yeah. And the biggest characteristics of entrepreneurs is that, you know, you talk yourself up. And it's not about being
over optimistic or Panglossian, thinking that the world is naturally sunny and uplands of milk and honey. But there is a mindset to it, which is seeing the things we can improve collectively rather than just looking at the negative and things that aren't working all the time. It's a terrible way to live, by the way, as well. But there's something about having a mayor that can do that, can talk the place up as well.
I think that's a nice way of summarising, because it takes us right back to the beginning. As an area, we see the potential. I mean, the potential in Greater Lincolnshire. It's such an amazing place to be, to live, to work, and talking it down seems madness when we've got so much potential. And I don't, like you, I don't think we're wearing rose-coloured spectacles. That there are big challenges in this area that we need to tackle. But God, we've got the ability and the capacity to do it. We just got to get on with it, I suppose.
Totally agree.
Yeah. But you've called yourself, just bring it to a close, because I'm conscious of time, of your time. We've talked around a lot of things, and a lot of it is based on politic real, I suppose, some real gritty stuff. And I know that you've used the phrase "I'm not a machine politician" a couple of times in things that I've read and listening to you on hustings and whatnot. So just can you just give me an idea from your point of view? This is an election after all. That in terms of you as who people entrust with this really important role, what sets you apart from others in your view?
Well, it's largely for the people to say that based on my track record, right? But ultimately, I've been an entrepreneur because I've wanted to go my own way through life and plan my own forward. So I've had the career that I've had because once I'm respectful of other people's opinions, then I'm basically, I'm my own mind up about stuff. So this is why I'm not a machine politician, is that because I haven't been in a system where my career or my livelihood depends on it. So I've got my own mind. Whilst I've got Labour values, I couldn't have had the career I've had and done the things I've done without being independently minded and strong-willed and have the ability to lead and be decisive. So that's one thing. I'm not constrained by a system. The second is I'm not looking for a job, Mark. You've known me for years, but I'm not doing this because I want a job or need a job. I'm doing it because I care about the place and I think I can help. And so that's the other thing, right? It's like I'm not standing for election because I lost my job or seat in another part of the world and I'm coming for another job to pay the bills. And rightly or wrongly, that again leaves me unconstrained. I can't be told what to do. And it doesn't mean I don't value opinion and won't take input, but I've left constraints by that because I'm not doing this again. This is my one and done. I'm doing this because I love the place and I want to make a difference. If I don't win, then I won't be I won't be suddenly popping up as, mayor of wherever else for an election. I'm just not interested in that. Yeah. I'm doing it because it's the place, it's a moment in time, and it's an economic opportunity. And then the third thing is people who know me in North East Links in particular know for the last 3.5, 4 years, I've been doing this stuff anyway, whether it's the football club or Our Future or Horizon. I'm committed to this. So I'll be doing it whether I get elected or not anyway. I won't be doing it for another mayor or another party, definitely not. But look, I care about that. I keep doing the work because I care about the place. And so, I think hopefully people have seen that this was never in mind for me. This was never a plan. It came up, 7 or 8 months ago. So, in good conscience, I've been doing this anyway. So people know that I'm committed to the place. Yeah. And I think combined with the skill set that I've got and the energy and the love that I've got for the place, I think that combination, hopefully people can see that as a differential.
Yeah, I think it's evident in this discussion that there is a differential, and what is absolutely clear is your passion for this place, and more engaging is your believable optimism about the future of this area. Lord knows we all need a big slice of that at the moment, and some certainty in someone who's going out to. If someone was going out to bat for Greater Lincolnshire on every stage possible. Look, I've really enjoyed that, Jason. It's been a great conversation. If you had one more thing that you wanted to say, particularly to our audience in particular, are the tens of thousands of local business owners and employees in this area who are going to be going to the ballot box. If you had one thing to say to them, what might that be?
Yeah, just well, thanks for your time. Thanks for your hard work, and just get out and vote. I mean, the biggest thing for me would be people sleepwalking into, a leader that they don't choose actively. So whoever you're going to vote for, encourage people to vote. Obviously, I want people to vote for me, but local elections can be low turnout. So to encourage people to vote, and it matters. It really matters because who you get on May the 2nd will have the opportunity to change the trajectory of our county. So, make an active choice and whoever you want in that particular role. But yeah, no, thanks for all your hard work as well. It's appreciated.
Not at all. Jason Stockwood, Grimsby boy, international entrepreneur, and now mayoral candidate for Greater Lincolnshire. Thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks a lot.